Live from Columbia, this is WIS News 10 at 11. Live, local, now.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled, and the verdict is a unanimous verdict.
Tonight, Alec Murdaugh found guilty of murdering his wife and his son. You saw a video there of his surviving son, but you also see Hearing His Fate Murdaugh showing little emotion in the courtroom as the verdict marks the final blow in the disbarred attorney's fall from grace. The jury reached that verdict in just under 3 hours. Our team has been reporting in Colleton County since the beginning of this trial. They tell us what's next for Alec Murdaugh.
Good evening, everybody, from the Colleton County Courthouse here in Walterboro. Judy Gatson, along with our team, Greg Adeline and Nick Neville. What an incredible day, guys. I'm not sure anyone expected this verdict to come so quickly, but in a matter of less than 3 hours, this jury deciding that Alec Murdaugh is guilty of murdering his wife and his son. And Greg, for all of the emotion that he showed during the trial, every time that his wife and son's names were mentioned, and especially on the stand, absolutely no emotion when that verdict was announced tonight.
No emotion from Alec Murdaugh. We saw his family come into the courthouse, and all of this came together rather quickly. We heard very early on that perhaps a verdict was reached. Not only did his family come in, but his attorneys soon followed, and these jurors rendered their verdict. All in all, these jurors had lots to go through. 500 pieces of evidence, hearing from 70 different witnesses over the course of 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks. A trip to Moselle, going through gunshot evidence, forensic evidence, cell phone data, financial crimes. This case touched all of those. And really, it was gruesome photos, a lot of difficult testimony to listen to, and all of this under a national spotlight. Of course, this jury came to a decision, though, rather quickly. They got behind closed doors and reached a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. Here's that moment.
Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime.
And shortly after that verdict came in, our Nick Neville was there when the Attorney General held a news conference, Nick, with his entire prosecution team.
Yes, that's right, Judy. And Attorney General Alan Wilson saying that no one is above the law tonight, no matter what your prominence is, no matter your, how wealthy you are, how wealthy you say you are. Attorney General Alan Wilson highlighting that point tonight with the entire prosecution team. He was with his team throughout the entire trial. Of course, Creighton Waters took the lead. He was the lead prosecutor on this case, and Alan Wilson thanked his entire team. And it was very interesting because Alan Wilson actually questioned the final witness, Ken Kinsey, who sort of tied everything together, shot down some of the assertions from the defense that there were possibly 2 shooters. He did a demonstration where he showed what he said to be really the unlikely scenario of what the defense put forward as to how the shooting went down at the kennels that night. But again, Alan Wilson saying that justice was served tonight. And let's take a listen to him.
Team, I want to tell you, I've been here for nearly 6 weeks with this team, living in a hotel, and it felt almost like being in a dorm environment in college. Late nights, cramming, studying, little sleep, away from our families, getting up early, getting here to the courthouse, working long hours, getting on each other's nerves at times, but it was all worth it. It was all worth it because we got to bring justice and be a voice for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh and bring justice for the people of South Carolina.
So that is the latest from the Colleton County Courthouse tonight. Typically, sentencing comes immediately following a guilty verdict in a murder case, but Judge Newman saying he wants to make sure that every witness who wants to testify has an opportunity to do so. That will happen at 9:30 a.m. on Friday morning. That is the latest from your team here in Walterboro. We'll continue our live coverage on WIS tomorrow, but for night, for Judy, Greg, and Nick, that's the latest from WIS News 10.
Taking a look now at your weather, there is more rain on the way. Our First Alert weather team has issued an alert day for tomorrow. So joining us now is meteorologist Eric Zernick. And Eric, the big concern, though, is the wind that we could see here.
That is right. The gusty winds nearly up to 40 miles per hour that we could see pretty much through a majority of the afternoon and into the evening, leading up to that line of storms that is likely to move through around 8, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow. And because of it coming a little bit later on in the day, it's going to lose some energy. So we're not really looking at that strong storms, but still going to have that gusty winds throughout a majority of the day. So that's the biggest thing that I think you're going to notice as you're out and about for your Friday, along with some warmer temperatures that'll be trying to push into the area. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. And the Storm Prediction Center has even lowered our threat level. Through most of the week, we were at a level 2, but they've kind of pushed that off to the northwest, more or less into the upstate. Still does include portions of Newberry and Saluda in that level 2 out of 5. But for the rest of the Midlands now, we've been downgraded to that 1 out of 5, as it does look like our chance for seeing some of those stronger storms is definitely decreasing, with those storms moving in a little bit later on into the evening. Temperatures and the energy just not going to be there to really get that going. So that is the good news, but still could see those gusts up to 40 miles an hour at times. Outside right now, a very pleasant evening. Relatively mostly cloudy to some clearing out there. Temperatures sitting pretty much in the low 60s as we head into the evening. Overnight, we'll continue to see those temperatures hold steady with those clouds with us. So 61 for that overnight low. And then tomorrow, windy and warm. 81 degrees for a high through the afternoon. And then that chance for some storms as we get a little later on into the day. We'll take a closer look at the timing with your futurecast coming up in your full First Alert forecast.
A panel at the South Carolina State House is in the midst of investigating how the state's top accountant missed a $3.5 billion mistake over the last decade. But more than a dozen other lawmakers say they have already seen enough and now want to begin impeachment proceedings against Comptroller General Richard Ekstrom. State House reporter Mary Green has the details tonight.
A resolution filed today here at the State House calls for the House Judiciary Committee to begin an impeachment inquiry into Comptroller General Richard Ekstrom. So far, that resolution has more than a dozen sponsors coming from both parties, including the House Republican leader.
You know, mistake's not even really the right word because everybody makes mistakes. This is like an epic fail.
Comptroller General Richard Ekstrom says that error his office made over a 10-year period led it to report in the state's official accounting document that South Carolina had $3.5 billion more in reserves than it actually had. While this error doesn't affect the state budget, this document is used by national rating agencies to determine South Carolina's credit rating. Ekstrom's held this job since 2003 and was just reelected this past November.
I'm concerned about the timing. If you listen to his testimony, it seems that it's clear that he knew about the issue before the election. He kept it hidden until the election was over, before he brought it to us, before he brought it to the public. That's very, very concerning.
In a statement in response to the resolution, Ekstrom says he'll continue answering lawmakers' questions and concerns, saying, quote, "We will do what it takes to make sure they are as confident as we are about the work this office does for the taxpayers going forward. Our constituents deserve nothing less." Ekstrom made the admission during a Senate budget hearing last month, and since then, a Senate panel has been investigating.
We're upset because we didn't know about this. But what about the taxpayers and voters and people of South Carolina?
It's held 3 hearings so far, and its chair says it'll likely hold at least 2 more next week before presenting its findings and recommendations.
Until there's a full picture and an accounting of what occurred, why it occurred, it would be wrong to speculate over what the remedy ought to be.
The state constitution gives the House the ability to impeach statewide elected officials for serious crimes or misconduct in office. If this resolution gets to the House floor and 2/3 of House members approve it, then it would be up to senators to decide if Ekstrom should be removed from office. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
And one of those senators' big questions was how this big of a mistake occurred. Ekstrom says the state accounting system had been double counting money transferred to colleges and universities, which use different accounting systems. Up next on your News at 11, after gunfire and shootings, law enforcement in Newberry are working on a new way to prevent crime. Cameras installed in parts of the city. We'll tell you about the plan coming up after the break.
Hurt on the job.
Less than 24 hours after gunfire erupted in the city of Newberry, the chief of police says a crime-deterring surveillance system is set to be installed in the city. Our Andrew Fancher reports from the Newberry Police Department and has more on what that system could look like.
City Council recently approved the purchase for Phase 1 of a citywide surveillance project in Newberry. City officials hope to see these cameras installed within the next few months, with more cameras slated for purchase this year. A gunfire incident on Wright Street prompted new interest in the status of a citywide surveillance project, now 2 years in discussion. In their latest City Council meeting, Newberry approved $151,000 to go towards the purchase of a Vigilon surveillance cameras and a server.
You know, we've had some instances on our old cameras where you could see something happen, but you couldn't really get a clue of who the person was, for example, or maybe even the car, the license plate. And we think in the future with the new cameras, it's going to be more beneficial to the police department. They'll be able to see more clearly with the modern technology.
Mayor Foster Sin says the current surveillance system in Newberry is outdated and that the city's police department suggested more cameras to deter crime.
These cameras will be throughout the entire city of Newberry. I think that everybody in the city deserves that fair share of safety, security.
Police Chief Kevin Goodman says he executed the entire purchase order for Phase 1 of this project last Thursday. The chief goes on to say he can't disclose how many cameras were purchased or where they'll be installed specifically, but he says the pole mount locations have already been selected by his department.
But we need them throughout the city, and if anybody knows the city of Newberry, then some of that stuff is self-explanatory. We need certain cameras, and we will make sure that everybody is safe.
Chief Goodman says these cameras will not intrude on someone's privacy. Reporting in Newberry, Andrew Fancher, WIS News 10.
The mayor plans for City Council to approve the purchase of more cameras this summer, completing the two-phase project. Well, union leaders in Ohio say rail workers have no personal protective equipment and are getting sick at the site of the East Palestine train derailment. Tomorrow marks 1 month since the crash, fire, and chemical release. Mike Valerio has the details on what Capitol Hill is trying to do to prevent another accident like this from happening again.
In the middle of this toxic cleanup, railroad union leaders say their workers are operating here with no PPE.
I've been out there a dozen times. Nobody's wearing protective equipment. I've asked 3 or 4 times. It's really alarming.
Michael Rulli represents East Palestine in the Ohio State Senate. He also lives near the derailment.
Some people that live near the rail actually are suffering from rashes and some discoloration in the skin. So it's a very real thing, and the workers there need to be protected.
Friday marks 1 month since the disaster, and the uncertainty about how lives can continue is palpable.
I have a part ownership in a farm, so I'm concerned about that, the soil at the farm. Can we plant? Can we not plant? Will anybody buy it if we do plant?
In terms of new federal regulations, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators is introducing a bill that will enhance safety procedures for trains carrying hazardous materials, reduce the risk of train wheel bearing failures, boost maximum fines for wrongdoing, and require at least 2-person crews on trains like the one that derailed. The head of the NTSB, who calls this accident 100% preventable, says she looks forward to the CEO of Norfolk Southern testifying before the Senate next week.
I would ask him what would he do differently, and how will he protect this community now that there's been a spill, and how will he protect the workers?
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
And if you thought the pollen was bad today, just wait. It's going to get even worse the next couple, especially with the windy conditions. That's just going to help to blow that pollen around even more. So make sure you have those tissues nearby the next couple of days. But we'll take a closer look at those storm chances coming up with your full forecast next.
Real-time closed captioning of this program.
As our next storm system makes its way closer to the region, we're going to be dealing with some of these stronger storms moving into the region. So we do have that first alert weather day issued across the region for tomorrow because of that chance for some high wind gusts, especially through a majority of the afternoon. I think the tornado threat is now pretty much gone, and even the chance for some heavy rain is looking very low. The rain that we do get is going to be in very quickly and then out of here. But let's flip this over to Max 2, and we'll kind of go through some of the other headlines that I'm tracking that we're going to be going with over the next 36 to 48 hours. So again, gusty winds tomorrow, especially through the afternoon and evening, at times up to about 40 miles per hour. That's what we're going to be looking at. A few storms, still a possibility as we get into the evening hours as that front finally does make its way into the region. But behind it is going to set up a very sunny and nice weekend. Finally, you'll have some nice weather to get out there. Maybe have to get that grass cut as things are starting to look very green now across much of the Midlands. But here's a look at the potential wind gusts that we're looking at tomorrow afternoon. And you can see as we get towards 3, 4, 5 o'clock, easily could see wind gusts over 30 miles per hour. So also might be a good idea tomorrow morning to bring in some of those things that you have outside, maybe tie them down a little bit too so they don't get blown around with some of these gusty winds that we are expecting. But your weekend forecast looking really nice. Go ahead, start making those plans now. Maybe make the tea times because it is looking beautiful. Sunny both days. Temperatures making their way into the low to mid 70s for afternoon highs. So that's even a little bit above normal for this time of year for the first weekend of March. Now it will get a little cool Saturday nights as those temperatures do dip down into about the mid 40s. Satellite radar right now quiet across much of the Palmetto State, just dealing with some clouds. We do have some light rain up towards Charlotte and some rain out towards Athens, but I don't think any of that will move into South Carolina. So we do stay dry through the overnight. Out the door tomorrow morning, we will have those clouds, though maybe a little bit of some fog. 62 degrees to get the day started. Could even squeeze out a little bit of some sunshine towards lunchtime as temperatures are approaching 72 degrees. And I do think we'll get close to 80 degrees for an afternoon high, but you do see those winds picking up out of the south-southwest up to about 20 miles per hour of gusts near 30. So timing this all out for you, you can see maybe a sprinkle or two overnight, but that's already lifting to the north. So most of us looking at dry conditions to get the morning started, and really through the majority of the day we're dry, just some clouds moving in, maybe a stray shower, but gusty winds going to be the biggest thing that you're going to notice through a majority of the afternoon. Still dry even as of 5 o'clock, but there's wind gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. Here comes that thin line as that cold front moves through tomorrow evening around 8, 9 o'clock. It'll be sliding through the Midlands. It's very thin, so the rain's not going to last all that long, but you do still see a little bit of that orange. So there will be the chance for some moderate to heavy rain and maybe a stronger storm or two embedded in there, but it's looking pretty weak now. It's in and out of here, and then we get the dry and sunny conditions with the wind starting to calm down. So looking really good for your Saturday. But as far as the storm threat, again, gusty winds going to be the biggest concern. We've pretty much lowered the tornado threat down to near zero, as it doesn't look like there's going to be quite enough energy to get that going. And even the heavy rain not looking overly that impressive. So still got the first alert day just in case for some of those gustier winds, but a nice looking weekend. Sunny, temperatures in the 70s, a little bit warmer to get the new work week started. 78 Monday, 82 Tuesday, and then back down into the 60s with a chance for a few showers towards the middle and end of next week.
We're gearing up for the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament and the Carolina Clemson Baseball Showdown. Plus, it's the weekend of champions for high school basketball. 2 titles decided tonight. Sports is next.
A full 10-day forecast from the WIS First Alert Weather Team.
The Carolina-Clemson baseball rivalry will fire up on Friday with the opener of the 3-game series. First pitch at Clemson is scheduled for 6 p.m. The Carolina-Clemson series is one of the best in college baseball. What really makes it unique is they play 3 games in 3 days at 3 different venues. USC junior pitcher Jack Mahoney is from Illinois. He didn't know anything about the Carolina-Clemson feud, but it didn't take him long to figure out how much this showdown means to both sides.
The genuine how these schools do not like each other. If you wear garnet and you wear orange, you don't really mix well. And so I think that didn't take me by surprise, but I was like, man, this is real. Then I remember my freshman year, I walked him off twice. And I remember we were in Greenville that first game, seeing how much this series meant to everyone. And, you know, people say about the Iron Bowl in football with Alabama and Auburn, and they kind of say about Clemson and Carolina too, is you can lose every series that you want during the season. Just do not lose that series against a team wearing orange.
The rivalry series starts Friday at Clemson. First pitch is 6 p.m. Saturday, they'll move to Fluor Field in Greenville. Start time is 1 p.m. And the series wraps up Sunday at USC's Founders Park. That one will get underway at 1:30. The top-ranked Gamecock women's basketball team found out today who they'll play tomorrow in their opening game at the SEC tournament in Greenville. Carolina will face Arkansas at noon in the quarterfinals. The Razorbacks advanced today by beating Missouri 85-74. Arkansas trailed by 8 points entering the fourth quarter. They outscored the Tigers 29-10 in the final period. Carolina head coach Don Staley was in the arena today doing a little scouting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got a chance to see them and know who our opponents are. And it's Arkansas that's on deck, and we played them probably about, 6 weeks ago. They look pretty darn good today, so, hopefully we can knock the rust off and get off to a great start, and our fans pour into the arena and don't allow us to lose.
It's Thursday, but the weekend of champions for high school basketball is underway. When the dribbling finally stops Saturday night, 10 teams will leave USC-Aiken with a championship trophy. Julia Westerman tells us who came out on top in the 4A boys battle tonight between Irmo and Lancaster.
All roads lead to Aiken in March. The Irmo Yellow Jackets are making a 12th state championship appearance in program history. They're no strangers to the biggest stage in South Carolina. It's the first day of action here at USC-Aiken. Irmo and Lancaster close us out with the nightcap. The Yellow Jackets enter the matchup at 25-5 after a big lower state win over Hartsville last week. Irmo controls it from the tip. Madden Collins takes it in the corner, an 8-2 lead early. The Bruins continue to fall behind. R.J. Brown gets past Brandon Crawford to trail by 4, but Irmo marches on. Collins drives it into the paint, light on his feet, and the Yellow Jackets lead by 11. Collins puts up 9 in the first half. Jonathan White nails the 3 late in the first, and Irmo's up 32-9 at the break. Second half just gets silly. A.J. Brand launches it to Crawford, who puts in the slam of the night. The ref's called traveling. That's okay. He'll just do it again. Crawford finishes with 12 points and 14 rebounds, and Irmo gets the win, 58-45. It's been a long, long time coming for the senior.
We had to work through some difficulties. We had challenges, we had hardships, but we got through it. At the end, we got through it. We climbed the mountain, and we got there. It puts love in my heart. I don't even know what else to say. It just makes me happy to be here and happy to play.
It's not just about our basketball team. It's about our high school. It's about our students. It's about our community. It's about our school. And there's a lot of pressure to come out here and not just get here, but to win it. I don't know how many more we'll ever be able to go to, so I'm doing my best to enjoy this one.
Irmo is bringing home a 6th state title to the Midlands. The action continues here on Friday as 4 local teams compete for rings in classes 2 and 3A. In Aiken, Julia Westerman, WIS News 10 Sports.
4A girls, the 3rd-ranked Westwood Redhawks taking on the #1 North Augusta Yellow Jackets. The Jackets score in the opening seconds. They win the tip and get the layup. Raven Johnson will put Westwood up 11-4. The Redhawks led by 1 at the half. The second half belongs to North Augusta. Selena Grant's 3-ball pushed the Jackets up 25-18. They outscored Westwood 29-15 after intermission. North Augusta wins the 4A crown 42-29. Jessica Woods leads Westwood with 10 points. So many more games tomorrow. There's 4 games tomorrow.
Yeah, big
we'll
weekend.
be there. Highlights and reaction.
All right. Well, thank you, Rick. And Eric, we want to get a look at the forecast because it looks like tomorrow we do have a first alert day.
Yeah, first alert day, mainly for the gusty winds through the afternoon, but also could have just a few storms as we get into the evening. And so most of your day will be dry. It's just as we get into those evening hours that we have that chance for a few storms, mainly between about 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. is going to be the main time frame that you're going to want to be weather aware for those storms moving into the region. We clear out and have sunshine and some nice weather for the weekend. Temperature is going to be in the low to mid 70s. Winds relatively light. So start making those plans. Get out there and enjoy the weekend. Things warm up a little bit next week, but also could have some rain by the time we get towards the middle and end of next week.
All right. Happy that we're going to have a nice weekend. I feel like we've been having some rainy ones recently. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
Today, the not safe.
True.
What do you do?
Well, I mean, even if